What's going on, guys? So today I want to talk about this story here. What we have is China-linked group known as Salt Typhoon has actually hacked into U.S. telecom providers, and some of those affected include Verizon, AT&T, and Lumen. So these different telecom providers were actually penetrated by a Chinese-linked group, which actually went to target the Lawful Intercept capabilities. And what is Lawful Intercept? Well, I like to call it Awful Intercept. And the reason I call it Awful Intercept is because what it is essentially a backdoor. And they say this backdoor is only for warrant access, so legal processes and court-ordered wiretapping. Is that true, though? I mean, as we see with this story, is that really all it is? No. What it is an extra vulnerability that is built into the telecom system. And we can see that with this story. And what's interesting about this particular story is just back in July, we found out that nearly all AT&T customers' text and call records were breached. Keep in mind, this story's from July. Is it linked? This is something I'm wondering. Only on October 5th was it revealed that it was a Chinese-linked group known as Salt Typhoon that was targeting the Lawful Intercept backdoors in the telecom system, which only makes us less secure. But was it linked possibly to this July story where it was revealed that all AT&T customers' text and call records were breached? It very well could be, because that would be the kind of data that you would get access to if you had breached the Lawful Intercept backdoors. So does this make sense to put backdoors in everything? And I also detail this in the blog post on how it could possibly be linked. Is it just a coincidence that in July it was revealed that all the AT&T customers' calls and text records were breached? And then just a few months later, it's revealed the same very story, but now we have it linked to a Chinese hacking group? It's a really large story, and we can see from this cartoon basically what a lawful intercept is. It's basically someone sawing a hole into your devices, basically putting a door in there and saying we're the only ones who's going to get in it. I mean, needless to say, we know locksmiths can get into doors that are locked. We know, hackers can test out the security of a system or a lock system. And generally, given the time, given the access, eventually they're going to break it. And especially when you put a giant target on it that says you're going to have access to everything. I mean, how can they resist? Well, when you go to the CALIA standards, you can see that even backdoors have standards. Here is the process for getting a warrant for the CALIA wiretap system, the backdoor access. Actually, I may share some more diagrams of that, so if you're interested, make sure to follow the blog. So the thing about it with this story is building backdoors into hardware truly is a compromise. This is a compromise in your security. Your security is being compromised for a promise of keeping you safer. As we know, the great enemy to our liberties really is people promising to keep us safety. And after all, when it's not protecting the kids, when it's not stopping terrorists, well, that great master key of all master keys is always going to be there to cover your back. National security. You can pretty much get away with anything as long as you veil it with those two words. Pretty much a get out of jail free card, allowing you to erode civil liberties and increase mass surveillance on a scale that would be considered slavery in other times in history. Well, in this particular instance, they appear to have pretty much all the internet traffic from the telecom providers that is accessible by the Lawful Intercept backdoor. And that's exactly what it is. And in this blog post, I also show someone who claims to have worked for AT&T and talks about how every AT&T Wi-Fi actually had a pre-configured CALIA tunnel to the router for the environment. And that's not surprising. I've also seen some interesting things myself. But it just goes to show that when you provide a door, you're providing a door. You're not providing a wall. You're not enhancing security. You're not keeping anyone safe. you are providing a backdoor. Now, on the other hand, there's still tools out there like Pegasus. There's really no need to backdoor everything. They can eventually target anyone with tools to allow what they call lawful intercept, and there's no need to backdoor the entire infrastructure just to make your job easier. It's really just a lazy way to do things. And I hope I'm not offending anyone. I respect everyone and everyone's job and employment, but it is something we should be thinking about. Is it worth weakening our security and giving, a massive target on the back of these backdoors when they're known to exist? They're public information, after all. And, it's only a matter of time before this happens again. And Cisco and other routers, including Juniper, have also been required to apply this lawful intercept backdoor into certain models of their router hardware. I don't know if it's included in all of them, and I'm definitely not claiming that. They were just following the laws they were required to follow. But there have been pushback from certain telecom companies, and some people in the industry actually were threatened with prison. So we can't really blame the telecom providers for these backdoors existing because they really don't have a choice. And what I mention is my concern is we are headed in a direction where we may actually see a future of, quote, lawful hardware, where every piece of hardware may have to come with a backdoor. If we don't have the proper pushback, I can see that being a real possibility. And I've actually covered maybe 4 or 5 years ago a video where they were going to require a backdoor and a blocking backdoor in new computers. They wanted to do this to protect kids. Once again, another master key for eroding your civil liberties. Of course, national security is the top master key of master keys. It allows you to pretty much get away with anything. But, protecting the kids, that's always here. Of course, we have several laws coming out that people are really pushing against, but it seems like they really don't care too much about that. And it's even admitted by the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, which helps to create policy and protocols for Internet engineering, the engineering of the modern day Internet. And they even mention in this particular paper that they know that this makes it less secure. They know it is less secure, and this happens to be a different version, but it's all CALIA. It's all related to the wiretapping policy, and it all meets the same risk. That the fact of the matter is, it is less secure than if it did not have this lawful intercept function. It's also more complex than if this was not present. And being more complex, the risk of unintended security flaws is larger. So obviously, it therefore lowers the security of the system. So it's even admitted they know they are lowering the security of everything on the internet. They know that they are threatening national security in the name of national security. It really doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? And then we have things like the EarnIt Act that are being pushed on us, where they really want to create best practices, and what they want to do is staff a government commission with law enforcement personnel. And like I said, I have no issue with law enforcement. I know they have a job to do. I believe victim crimes, obviously families deserve justice. They should go after predators. Absolutely, 100% on board with going after predators. But I don't believe in compromising our security to do that. I don't believe in collective punishment of all of us just to make your job easier. I think that's lazy. And I think we really need to think long and hard about, the future we're creating here. And especially in an age of AI where this is going to go much further than just the way it is now with lawful intercept. It's going to be, completely blanketed, and every little pattern is going to be linked to every other pattern. And that's already the case with things like Prism, etc. But the point is, this is all hypocritical stuff, and backdooring, encryption does not solve the problem. They say it's going to protect your encryption by actually subverting it. How does that make sense? Client-side scanning? which, as I've covered in previous videos, client-side scanning, what they want to do is basically scan your messages before they're even encrypted. What's the point of encryption if it doesn't actually stay between you and the recipient? There's really no point. Encryption may as well not even really exist. At least end-to-end encryption may as well go HTTPS on everything, because the way they're going, they just want to break it all. And now we have chat control, another bill that's highly problematic and highly hypocritical, as I mentioned. Now, what's also hypocritical, and this is another bill that wants to scan your messages. They want to scan all of your files, all your messages before they ever reach the messenger, or as soon as they reach the messenger, but before the encryption. And I highly encourage people to push back against these bills. Anywhere you can get involved, anywhere you can join a protest. A lot of people say it doesn't make a difference. Everything makes a difference. Every action we take, it makes a ripple. And it may not seem like it's making a difference, but if your action can inspire a couple others, our collective action is what makes the change in the future. And everything in the world today is a result of the previous generation's collective action. Everything counts. Everything makes a difference. We just may not observe it right now. And the funny thing about it is they've actually leaked the fact that they want exemptions. So they say it's going to keep your encryption secure, and yet at the same time, they want a ton of people exempt from this. They want law enforcement exempt from this client-side scanning. They want military exempt. They want politicians exempt. The very people who are imposing this on you, they want exempt. They want to exempt themselves. But you just aren't important enough. So that they basically want to break security even further down than what it already has. And with stories like the Salt Typhoon, where Chinese actors were able to actually target the backdoor for law enforcement and use that to their advantage to basically control data collection in a way that never would have been possible without this backdoor. And it just goes to show us that there is no such thing as a good backdoor, and that's why I call Lawful Intercept Awful Intercept. Another story is archive.org, unfortunately, has been hacked. So I really think this is just, who targets one of the most important websites on the internet? It does make me wonder what their motivations are on doing this. Archive.org basically has an entire history of the entire internet. And of course, they get targeted, and then they compromise 31 million records, including email addresses and password hashes. So if you have an account there, make sure to check it out on Have I Been Pwned? Check it out, make sure you're safe. But of course, as I always mention, make sure you're using different passwords for different accounts. Not only is this a security reason, but also, so if one of your passwords gets leaked, it could be guessed on other accounts you may hold, or accounts that seem to be linked to you. But not only that, but as I've mentioned in the past, this can also act as a fingerprint. So if you have a similar or same password, one website to another, you might have a completely different name, your content may be entirely different, your email may be different, everything else may be different. But if the password matches, well, that's an identifier. That's a unique identifier that fingerprints you uniquely, because a password is highly unique in itself. So that's another big concern. This story I'm really not happy about. But of course, you knew I had to make a video on this. There's no such thing as a good backdoor that's only for the good guys. And it is funny when you hear them talk about how it's going to be safe, how it's actually going to protect you, how it's going to protect kids. Don't buy that. It's not going to protect anyone. And of course, what else is it going to do? It's going to make kids who are in danger afraid of reaching out to a safe adult that they can ask for help from. They're not even going to have the encryption safety to reach out and get help from an abusive situation because you're backdooring it before it even gets encrypted. So guys, that's what I got today, guys. As you can see, just more hypocrisy. This whole backdooring everything in order to go after terrorism, to protect kids, to, prosecute crime. Of course, I am not on the side of criminals. I do these videos because I think this information is important, and I feel like we need to talk about it. We need to keep this narrative alive, because if we aren't setting the narrative, someone else is going to set the narrative on us. And that is why this is so important that we talk about these things and also expose the hypocrisy, because it really is hypocritical. So the fact is, they tell you that this is going to be protecting your encryption, that your encryption is not going to be any less secure. They actually mention that. They say it's going to be just as secure. Well, then why are they exempt? Why are these news organizations, these EU interior ministers, these intelligence agencies, these police and military, if they are exempt, why do they need to be exempt? If it is so secure, if it is so foolproof, why need exemptions at all? It just shows the rampant hypocrisy and the reach and grasp for power, more power, because it really comes down to power. It does. And that's essentially what it creates. And when you see and you create these things, people are going to abuse them just like anything else. And when you create a backdoor, that's what it's going to be. It's going to stay a backdoor. So don't buy the BS. Just realize a backdoor is always going to be targeted. It is always going to be accessed by those that aren't supposed to access it. It just makes a shinier target. That's what I got today, guys. Make sure to like, share the video, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Do you think we're in for a future where they're going to make us use lawful hardware, things with backdoors in it? Do you think that's going to be a future that we're walking into? Or do you think there's always going to be room for freedom? With freedom comes the risk of criminals. Now, if there's no crime, you're probably not free. Something to think about. I will see you guys in a video soon. Make sure to like, share the video. Let me know. Do you think we're going to see lawful hardware where we all are forced to use backdoors in our hardware? Or do you think that this is just going to be the end of the backdooring? Or do you think lawful hardware, Earn It Act, chat control are going to be part of our new AI NPU hardware? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to follow me over on the I2P blog at righttoprivacy.i2p and also at bmc.link/politictech. And I'll be back later with more news and also tips and tutorials on how to protect your security and privacy. How it's supposed to